Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I am so excited and happy to be here with you all. I get invited to a lot of conferences and a lot of lectures and a lot of rallies and events, but it is rare that I get invited to something like this. Something about more than politics, something about more than an academic issue, something that cuts across our lives, something that cuts across our experience, something that we have to take seriously, and that is the question of fatherhood. So when y'all said y'all was doing a fatherhood summit, I was like, I even come to Oakland for that. You know, I love Oakland. I have this deep, rich history here of Black radical activism, of organizing, of education. And this is really the hub of so much that I love. As a sports fan, I hate y'all. Warriors. I mean, y'all ain't won no Super Bowl in a while. Y'all can't give A's tickets away. I done seen it with my own eyes. Y'all literally can't give A's tickets away. So I feel a little bit better, but nonetheless, it was overwhelming and exciting to come in here and see so many brothers and so many sisters here supporting brothers. Hear them smile. You can't have a movement of fatherhood. You can't have a movement of healthy families. You can't have a movement, period. There's never been a movement in American history that has not had as an anchor Black women. So we can't ignore that. Even as we talk Black fathers, we have to acknowledge Black womanhood. So all the Black girls and women and femmes who have done the work and labor in history and currently we give honor and love to as we talk about this question of fatherhood, and for me more specifically, Black fatherhood. And the reason why I say Black fatherhood is not because I want to ignore brown fatherhood or white fatherhood or any other kind of fatherhood, because there are certain key principles of fatherhood that cut across. This spirit of love, the spirit of investment, this spirit of care. The biological part of it for sure is the same whether you red, yellow, black, or white. I learned that in California for sure. So there's all kinds of stuff that we can talk about that is about fatherhood, but particularly Black fatherhood we must think about. Because it is Black fatherhood that has been under assault since the very moment we arrived here in this strange place called North America. In school, we often are taught that slaves were brought to America. Slaves were not brought to America, people were. Healers were, teachers were, physicists and chemists, astronomers were.
Come on.
Parents were, mothers were, fathers were. We have a tradition of people who were not responsive to civilization. We were the creators of civilization. We are the architects of this universe. We are the progenitors of civilization. We taught this world how to be human. And in the process of enslavement, we were taught and forced to unlearn the very things that made this world human. How do you do that? Well, in this American democratic experiment, so much of the American democratic experiment hinged upon the exploitation of Black labor. That's what slavery was. It was the exploitation of Black labor, of Black folk doing the work that would produce American wealth and capital across the globe without any compensation. But how do you do the work of exploitation of labor? It's not just an economic thing. It's not just a physical thing. It's a psychological thing. It is a cultural thing.
Come on.
They must try to kill something inside of us in our spirits, kill something inside of us in our minds, kill something inside of us in our community so that we will be more capable, more willing to participate in this strange process. So how do we do that to an African person? Can I get a new one? Well, at least this was mine. One Raiders joke, I don't get no water. The way you dismantle a people is to dismantle a family structure.
Come on.
As Africans, we've always been a communal people.
Yes.
We've always been a people that understood the value of family, not just the mother, father, sister, brother family, but the auntie up the street, the uncle around the corner. We understood that even if folk didn't share blood with you, that didn't necessarily mean that they wasn't family, because some of y'all got some blood that don't mess with you, that you wouldn't leave your child or your money with, and you got some folk who you ain't shared no blood with, who you would die for and who would die for you. That's what it means to have family. And so as African people, we had something called fictive kinship. That meant that the person who didn't share blood with you was still like a family. You called them cousin or auntie. Y'all do that all the time. Black folk got cousins everywhere. You might have met him last week, that's my cousin. Because sometimes you ain't got the capacity to explain fictive kinship to white folk. So instead of saying, well, as African people, we've inherited some fictive kinship structure that allows us to create family-like relations despite our lack of biological or filial connection, you just say, that's my cousin. That's easier to explain to some folk. So when you have this connection and you have this community, that means that your village and your family is wider and broader and thicker than everybody else's. That means that if I'm going to dismantle this family, I can't just come after mom and dad. I got to go through the whole community and tear down all the folk who might stop your child from acting wrong when they go around the corner. From that auntie who might correct you and say, no, you're going to call me Mrs. or Ms., not by my first name, like you got some sense. It's like that whole dynamic has to be dismantled in order to create something different. So, as we talk about fatherhood, we're talking about not just the project of individual creation, we're talking about a whole structure. When we talk about motherhood, we're talking about a whole structure. So in the process of creating a people who were more amenable to slavery, one of the things we had to do was pull this father out. I had to destroy you. I had to destroy this idea of fatherhood. Now, the labor of slavery did that to some extent, because you physically ain't there.
That's right.
The plantation was a site of violence, not just the violence of labor and the violence of slavery, but the violence of sexual assault. That process took dad out, took mom out, but it also fragmented bonds of trust.
Yeah.
So that if I saw you as my protector, and by you, I don't just mean men, I mean women as well, we protect each other.
That's right.
We got each other's back. This ain't no patriarchal project. If we working together on this thing and you pull us apart, it makes us more amenable to slavery, both in the house and out of the house. And throughout time, we have come to dismantle that figure. And by dismantling that figure, that means that I don't just lose dad, I lose my uncle. I lose granddad. I lose play uncle. I lose everybody in the community, because we have been taught to turn not to each other, but on each other.
Yeah.
The power of white supremacy is to make us love someone else more than we love ourselves.
Teach.
To see beauty in someone else's face and not in ours. To see security in someone else's body and not our own. To see normalcy in someone else's community and not the one that we create. So if we're going to reclaim this idea of fatherhood, or to redeem the project of fatherhood in ways that will make everyone better, we have to get a historical analysis of this.
Yes, yes.
We have to understand that this is something that comes out of slavery but doesn't stop at slavery. Because sometimes we got to be honest about what happened. We have too much nostalgia and too much romanticism in ways that don't acknowledge our flaws and our contradictions. That's why when my brother was speaking, and he said, I got to be honest about who I am and what I am, and I got flaws. We got to be honest about our collective flaws in the historical context. What does that mean? It means we can't be romantic about the past. We go, remember back in the days in the 60s when dad came home and mom came home and everybody was home and everything was good. We need to go back to the good old days. Them good old days wasn't as good as you might have thought. Because even when mom and dad were home, we still had to wrestle with economic exploitation. Dad had to work 18 and 19 hours. We still had to deal with these emotional blocks. Dad might have been home, but dad told you not to cry. We had to deal with the trauma of home. Mom and dad both came home every day, but dad beat mom. We don't want to romanticize patriarchy. We don't want to be nostalgic about the past. Yes, there's a moment where we might have been more together as a nuclear family, but we also got to understand that nuclear models ain't the only model. And even as we are becoming romantic about the past, we got to acknowledge that even when mom and dad came home, sometimes dad was the same gender loving person. There just was no space for that conversation. Sometimes mom didn't want dad there. We have to reimagine the past in ways that are honest and true so that we can move forward. We can't properly examine fatherhood if we don't understand the role of the present.
Come on.
See, it's easy to say, why dad ain't home? These communities don't have anybody there. Their father's not there. I can't understand, Bill. Why is Jamal not home? Because you locked him up. See, we talked about slavery, but one of the most fascinating things about slavery is post-slavery, we developed black codes, which emerged out of slave codes.
Come on.
And those slave codes that became black codes were another way to criminalize black bodies. The 13th Amendment eliminates slavery except for under the condition of prison or commission of a crime. They say you can't be a slave unless you commit a crime. Then the black codes make everything a crime. So now it's illegal to be black and outside. It's illegal to curse in front of a woman. It's illegal to be unemployed. It's illegal to be a vagrant. So they create laws that make it illegal to basically exist as a black person, and then they lock you up. And then when they lock you up, you can now be leased out through the convict lease system to the very same plantations and farms that you were freed from ostensibly through the Emancipation Proclamation. So you get enslaved by other means. And so as time goes on, the same American appetite for the carceral state or for captivity, let me put it more specifically, America has an appetite for captivity. And so enslavement was the first form of captivity, and then we move into this new form of captivity through the prison, and that form of captivity also gives America economic vitality and life. That form of captivity also erases and reconciles the contradictions of the American capitalism so that we don't got enough jobs for everybody. We ain't got enough housing for everybody. We ain't got enough support for everybody. But if we can put 2.5 million of you in a prison, we ain't got to work out those things. The only sustainable public housing that we have built and expanded in the last 30 years in America is the prison. So, we build these prisons. We take brothers who have mental health needs and we shrink the state. We get rid of the mental hospitals. So now these brothers are on the street. Then we make it illegal to be on the street. Anti-loitering, broken windows, policing. We have mental health needs, and instead of us getting drugs, now we gotta self-medicate. At the same time, they build more prisons to arrest people and imprison people for this thing that's cheap, easy to get, and stronger than ever, called crack.
Come on.
So these brothers who were mentally ill are now in prison. These brothers who are homeless are now in prison. These brothers who are drug addicted are now in prison. That means we have criminalized homelessness. We have criminalized poverty. We have criminalized mental illness. We have criminalized drug addiction. And so those fathers who would be with their families are now in prison. So now it's not a slave master pulling father away from home or pulling father out of the house. It's not a physical person, it's a structure, a system, thank you, that's pulling people. See, black women always say that. Pulling you out. And because of differential sentencing, the white guy who's doing cocaine in his law office is getting 6 months or a slap on the wrist or a year or two, and these fake laws, or these real laws based on fake premises, are putting brothers in jail for 10 and 20 years. So now those children who are in families led by mothers don't have access to their fathers because dad is going for 10 and 20 years. And the irony is they frame these drug sellers and small-time drug users as so violent and so dangerous and so predatory. Super predators, some of y'all people call them. Some of y'all voted for them people. That they are a threat to the family. And so they tell you that this man is a threat to the family so much that we don't want the family endangered, and yet you take away the very thing that can provide some support. I'm not romanticizing patriarchy. I'm not saying that families will be saved if just a dude is in the house. I'm saying a family is better off when there's two incomes in the house. A family is better off when mom ain't got to work 19 hours. A family is better off when there's someone to provide discipline and instruction, not by themselves, but with somebody else. It's not about it just necessarily being a man, it's about having a structure. And you take them away for 20 years. And then they say, well, fathers need to be in touch with their family because we know that the thing that makes you less likely to go back to prison and the thing that makes you more likely to connect with your family is seeing your family. But where's the prison at? It ain't in Oakland.
That's right.
It's on the other side. You got to go 2 and 3 and 4 and 8 hours to get to the prison. And you can see for 2-3 hours for the week. And you can't do 2 days in a row in a lot of prisons, so you got to go back 8 hours and then go back again. So the thing that makes you less likely to commit crime and make your family more sustainable is fathers having more access to their families so they pull you away from the family. Then they say, well, at least if you talk to them on the phone, you can hear daddy's voice and know that daddy loves you. Daddy can read a story to you over the phone at least. Daddy can check in on you every day. So they privatize the phone calls and make them from 10 cents or 50 cents or $1 to now $10 sometimes. You try to have a 5-minute phone call, you spending 10 and 20 hours. Who can afford that? So the structures themselves are pulling us further and further and further apart. So when we say fatherhood's under attack, it's not about an individual assault on black people, it's a structural assault on the black community. And let's be very clear, women are under attack in many of the same ways. They're the fastest growing prison population right now. They're also being evicted at unprecedented rates. Oftentimes, as Matthew Desmond says, what prison is for men, eviction is for black women. So we're trying to wrestle with this stuff at a structural level. But it isn't just a structural problem. When we talk about black fatherhood, we must also understand it as an articulation of black masculinity. We must reassess what masculinity is.
That's right. That's right.
Because we can't have healthy children if we don't have healthy masculinity. We can't have healthy fathers if we don't have healthy conceptions of masculinity. If our conception of masculinity is that to be a man is to be violent, to be a man is to be hypersexual, to be a man is to be compulsorily heterosexual, if our idea of what it means to be a man is so narrow that we can't move outside of it, then we become dangerous. And again, it ain't just about what we do, it's about what we consume. I grew up, I'm born in 78. So I grew up watching old 70s TV shows and some 80s TV shows, and we didn't have access to a whole range of possibilities for black fatherhood. Because part of how we understand what it means to be human, what it means to navigate a community, how it means to navigate the world, is the media text that we consume. So if you grow up thinking that the way to be a man is to be James Evans Sr., and look, I got a whole lot of love for James Evans Sr., but there's certain problem-solving skills that James Evans Sr. on Good Times may have had. Largely that belt. Remember that time Michael Brown, a kid who was bad in school, he beat him too. He beat other people's kids. And that became our model. Imagine what it would mean to have representations of black fatherhood where they cry. Yeah. Where they feel vulnerable. There's a value in this. But there's a value and a commitment from the media superstructure to not even represent black fathers. You know how hard it was for Esther Roll to even have a husband on Good Times? They didn't want her to have a husband on Good Times. Just like what's happening, they had a mother, they had Mabel, but the father showed up like season 3 from a distance. That's my mama, solo. Sanford and Son, she gone, she passed away. The idea of representing two parents at one place was revolutionary. But it's not just in TV, it's in our everyday practices. When we teach in schools and we have our children, and before you even get to school, you're 3 and you're 4 and you're 5 years old, we send messages to young men about who and what they're supposed to be. What colors they should paint with, what color their room should be, what kind of toys they should have. I was playing John Madden football with my homeboy, and I cuss a lot, especially when I'm losing. And let's just say I was cussing a lot that day. And he kept saying, he was sitting next to me, his daughter was sitting there too, and he said, yo man, like, can you please stop cussing? Like, I'm around my daughter's here. And I was like, cool, my bad, I cussed again. Not on purpose, I just can't stop. It's what I do for Philly. And he kept saying, yo, my kids. And I felt bad. I mean, that's not how I operate on my kids, so I see it a little bit differently. But I respect his choice. And then at some point, he threw an interception, and he was like, yo, this dude's throwing like a girl. And I was thinking, I think my MFers may be doing less harm than you saying he threw like a girl. The messages we send to children early, explicitly and tacitly, shape who and what they think they are supposed to be. As boys, we don't play with dolls. Boys play with toys. Girls play with dolls. Girl can have a Barbie doll. Boy can't have no Barbie doll. They'll snatch the Barbie doll out of the boy's hand and place it in his hand. Back in my day, He-Man. I hate to break it to you, that's a doll too, right? Like, we don't play with dolls, we have action figures. The same 2 movements, same plastic, same assembly line, right? You only do a couple things, right? Right, left, right, forward, back, that's it. You had the army man like this, the green army man that's stretched out like that. They don't do much different stuff. Homie, you playing with a doll. But the idea that boys don't have the ability to do that is a way to constrain the possibilities for what we're supposed to be and a way to reinforce that we're not supposed to be like girls. down what you do all day, but don't call it a diary, call it a journal. And so that moves forward so that by the time you get into first and second and third grade, we're now telling girls that they can write poems, and boys, you're not allowed to write poems, so that we don't get the genius that we just heard a few minutes ago. Because we too often tell boys that what they shouldn't be and what they shouldn't do. Boys shouldn't dance like this, they shouldn't write like this, they shouldn't feel like this. And so we wildly constrain what's possible for men to be. And those constraints shape the kind of fathers that we become. Because if we're always telling boys that they're not supposed to feel anything but anger, that the only legible emotion men should have is anger, then that shapes the way we parent. It shapes how we love, it shapes how we partner. My frat brother does that. Actually, a lot of them do, but they always come to my house when they want to complain about something. So they come over, my homie comes over, one day he just started complaining about his girl. He was like, man, I just can't deal with it. He's punching, he started swinging in the air. Like a man from Boys in the Hood. Like Trey. He punched the wall. He's screaming, literally screaming in my house, I can't stand her. I said, why? He said, she's so emotional. But within his mind, what he was doing wasn't emotional, because boys don't get emotional. Men are rational and reasonable, only women are emotional. Nah, bro. That failure to recognize emotion and to be only able to articulate one emotion, anger, constrains how we parent. And it constrains how we partner. Because I can't say, you hurt my feelings. I can't say I miss you. I can't say that made me feel insecure. I can't say that I love you. I can't say that I need you. I can't say that I'm sorry. Our constraints emotionally can make us unhealthy. So the project of fatherhood at this junction in time is partly to unlearn unhealthy masculinity so that we can be the kind of fathers and partners that we want and need to be. So what do we do? I'll make sure. I want to do Q&A. Can we do like 10, 15 minutes of Q&A? Y'all mind? I want to be able to talk to y'all a little bit. Let's go talk to y'all a little bit. So I'm gonna say one more thing and then I want to talk to y'all. The last thing we have to do, my family, is we have to heal. We have to heal. You cannot be in this country and not be broken. You cannot live in America under white supremacy and patriarchy and homophobia and imperialism and transphobia and ableism and not have it chip away at your psyche, at your spirit, at your body, at your mind. We have to figure out how to heal. What does that mean? At the structural level, healing means we have to repair the damage done. If you want to have healthier fathers, you have to be willing to invest in black communities. See, these same people who say they're colorblind when it's time to talk about racism suddenly don't mind talking about black families taking care of themselves and black fathers being more responsible. They're colorblind on investment and they're color specific on blame. So what we have to be willing to do is say, wait a minute, y'all gonna talk about us as families, then help us as families. You wanna be able to talk about black people committing crimes, have fair sentencing. You wanna be able to talk about people getting locked up too much and divest from prison and invest in drug treatment and mental health awareness and schooling and arts and music and sports and all the things we know that make these children less likely to go to prison and these fathers less likely to stay in prison. If you want to invest in our community, if you want us to heal, we need structural healing. And structural healing ain't just about words, it's about money. These budgets that are going to lock folk up and to prosecute unjust wars and to give more money and kickbacks to multinational corporations have to come back to the hood. They have to come back to community centers. They have to come to nonprofits like this. They have to come to schools. They have to go to churches. They have to go to mosques. They have to go to the people that are doing the work of healing. Healing is personal. We have to come to terms with our own demons. We have to come to terms with our own contradictions. We have to ask ourselves, who am I? What do I need to unlearn? The way I was parented doesn't mean that I have to parent that way. I was parented through violence, some of you say. That don't mean that you have to parent through violence. It worked out for me. My mama did it to me, whatever the thing is. My mama and daddy did it to me. I turned out all right. Yeah, but did you turn out all right because of it or in spite of it? Ask yourself this. The thing that I was parented with, did I come out okay because of it or in spite of it? Are you okay because you got beat? Are you okay because you got ignored? Are you okay because you were told real boys don't do that? Or did you turn out despite that and you spend the rest of your life trying to unlearn it and work through it and heal from it? Don't replicate the pathology. Just because it happened to you don't mean it got to happen from you. Let's imagine something else. Healing means not doing it yourself. I began by talking about how we are a communal people. As a communal people, we have to turn to each other for support. Right. My community helps me parent. Our community helps you parent. We can't be everywhere. Individually, but collectively, we can be everywhere. But that also means that the healing has to be collective. What I'm talking about going to therapy. Ain't no way you could be in this country and not need therapy. Some of y'all are scared of therapy. Some of y'all weirded out about therapy. Some of y'all think that's white people stuff, middle class stuff, Woody Allen movie stuff. But it's deeper than that. Therapy for everybody. Some of y'all say, I'm a Christian. I go to take it to Jesus. Jesus wants you to see a therapist too. And when you see that therapist, that's a space to heal. That's a space to be free. That's a space to be vulnerable. That's a space to unpack all the things that made us what we are right now. And it's an opportunity to be something different. And lastly, to heal is to come together like this. Because our stories heal each other. Our parenting tips help each other. Our collective love for each other helps build the community. What is more beautiful than coming here and seeing all of these brothers saying, I love you. I support you. I'm here to be a stand for you and your children and your families. Us being here matters. The summit matters. The organization matters. The work we do here matters every single day. No matter what the world tells you, black men, no matter what the world tells you, brother, you matter. You are valuable. You are loved. You are needed. You are depended on. You are the anchor, along with the black woman, to this black community. We can't go without you. So take pride in the work you're doing today. Take pride in the work you do every day. But never stop building. Never stop learning. Never stop healing. Never stop loving. Never stop parenting. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question